Hello, everybody. My name is Eric D. Johnson. Also known as BrightShine, right here in the city of Memphis, in the county, Shelby State, Tennessee. Today's date is Sunday morning, September 22nd, 2024, and the time is 11:58 a.m. First, I thank my family, my support. For you continue to support, continue to keep myself employed in the Memphis tri-state area, continue to further my education, my work out online, continue to pursue my social research, being administrative, contract, my spend time to bring going to school. In the future, I'm gonna go back to school, earn my social degree as well as other degrees. Now, what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna start my Facebook Live. Hello, everybody. My name is Eric D. Johnson, also known as BrightShine, right here in the city of Memphis, in the county, Shelby State, Tennessee. Today's date is Sunday morning, September 22nd, 2024. Time 11:59 a.m. First, I thank my family, my support for you. Continue to support, continue keep myself employed in Memphis tri-state area, continue for my education, my work out online, continue to pursue my social degree. Instead of being my straight country, my present time, I took a break and go to school. In the future, I'm gonna go back to school, earn my social degree as well as other degrees. Now, it's a couple of seconds from in the afternoon, and like I said, so it's well, as of right now, it is Sunday afternoon, September 22nd, 2024, Sunday afternoon, 12 p.m. So the names of God in the Old Testament: Elohim, El Shaddai, Jehovah Shalom, Jehovah Siddiqui, El Elyon, Jehovah Ra, the Lord my shepherd, Jehovah Mikodishkim, Alpha and Omega, and of course the Tetragrammaton, Yahweh, and Jehovah Nissi, Jehovah Shammah, El Olam, Jehovah Ra, Mighty God, Adonai, Jehovah Rapha, Jehovah Jireh, El Elyon, El Shaddai, Lord God Almighty, El Roy, name of God, Jehovah Sabaoth, our shepherd. Now we're talking about that tetragrammaton, of course, as you know, Yahweh, which is sacred to people of the Jewish faith in Judaism, and also now Jehovah is considered also to be tetragrammaton along with Yahweh. And so again, that's the names of God in the Old Testament. Let me click over here. And of course, you know this is coming from sources on the web. We on online, we on Google, and names of God in the Old Testament, sources from across the web. In the Old Testament, of course, let's not forget, archaeological discoveries, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and so this, it's important, to Judaism. I mean, as well as to the Catholic Church. It's important. Very, very important. Now, we're dealing with names of God, also, just in the Bible, of course. Again, sources from across the web. But we're talking about the New Testament and everything. El Shaddai, Elohim, in the Tetragrammaton, Yahweh, El, mighty God, El, Elohi, Israel, Holy One, Son of God, Adonai, El, Roy, Jehovah, Sekinu, Jehovah, Roy, God the Shepherd, Alpha and Omega, and Jehovah is also considered to be the Tetragrammaton. Emmanuel, the Lord who sacrifices, El Elyon, Jehovah Jireh, Yahweh Shalom, Jesus, Chief Shepherd, Elohim Sabaoth, Shepherd, the Word. So when you go from Old Testament to the New Testament, you're talking about the same God, the same God. Now we over here on BibleStudyTools.com, and to make sure I don't forget, I'm gonna do this first. All right, we're coming from the New International Version. The Bible verse of the day is coming from the book of Acts, the 26th chapter, verses 28 and 29. And it reads, Then Agrippa said to Paul, Do you think that in such a short time you can persuade me to be a Christian? Verse 29. Paul replied, Short time or long, I pray to God that not only you, but all who are listening to me today may become what I am, except for these chains. And again, that's the Bible verse of the day, the book of Acts, chapter 26, verses 28 and 29. And also, today's Bible reading comes from 1 John, the first chapter, and also 2 Chronicles, the 34th chapter, and also the book of Psalms, the 8th and 9th chapter, verses 19 through 37. So again, that's today's Bible reading. So again, that's the Bible verse of the day. Came from the book of Acts, chapter 26, verses 28 29, which I read. Also today's Bible reading came from 1 John, the first chapter, 2 Chronicles, the 34th chapter, and Psalms 89, verses 19 through 37. Oh, okay. I've seen some more things over here on Bible Study too. Okay, they got the popular Bible verses. The book of John, chapter 3, verse 16. The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 1. The book of Philippians, the 4th chapter, verse 6. The book of Philippians, 4th chapter, verse 13. The book of Romans, 12th chapter, verse number 2. And the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 28. The book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verse 6. The book of Jeremiah, the 29th chapter, verse 11. The book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verse number 5. In the book of Matthew, chapter 28, verse 19. And let me scroll down. Now, this is all on BibleStudyTools.com. And then they also have featured verse topics. And they also have popular Bible commentaries. Now, they also have today's inspiration. That's for, okay. And your daily verse is, for today's inspiration is coming from the book of Romans, the 8th chapter, verse 28. And it reads, And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. And again, today's inspiration is coming from your daily verse, the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 28. So like I said, we over on BibleStudyTools.com. Now let me click on. Now we still on BibleStudyTools.com. Bible versions and translations. Best known translation, starting with the Holman Christian Standard Bible, the English Standard Version, King James Version, the Message Bible, New American Standard Bible, the New International Version, the New King James Version, New Living Translation, New Revised Standard Version of the Bible. You have other translations, modern, the Bible in Basic English, Common English Bible, the Complete Jewish Bible, Good News Translation, God's Word Translation, Hebrew Names Version, Jubilee Bible 2000, Lexham English Bible, New Century Version, New International Readers Version of the Bible. In the New International Readers Version, Orthodox Jewish Bible, Third Millennium Bible, World English Bible, Young's Literal Translation. You have older translation, American Standard Version, the Darby Translation, Dewey Reams Catholic Bible, Revised Standard Version, Tyndale Bible, the Latin Vulgate Bible, the Webster Bible, and the Wycliffe Bible. The New Testament only Bibles, and you have Spanish Bibles, Portuguese Bible, French, German, Italian, Dutch, and Chinese Bibles. So again, that's BibleStudyTools.com. So let me click to BibleGateway.com. The verse of the day. Romans chapter 15, verse number 7, the New International Version of the Bible. And it reads, accept one another, then, just as Christ accepted you, in order to bring praise to God. Again, that's the verse of the day coming from Romans, the book of Romans, chapter 15, verse number 7. And it reads from the New International Version. All right. Okay, available versions of the Bible. Like I said, we're on BibleGateway.com. And you know, according to the languages from A to Z. And then they have versions of the Bible in those languages. Amharic Bibles, and Arabic Bibles, Awadi Bible, Bulgarian Bibles. Now, I speak all these languages or whatever. Cebuano, Cherokee. Now, you know that's first in Native Americans. There's a Cherokee New Testament Bible. Curtis Serrani Standard Bible. You have Czechoslovakian Bibles, Welsh Bibles, Danish Bibles, German. And then, of course, you got all these English Bibles, Spanish Bibles, Persian, Farsi New Testament Bible, Finnish Bibles, French Bibles, Greek Bibles, Gujarati Bible, Hebrew Bible, Hindi Bible, Croatian Bible, Haitian Creole Bible, Hungarian Bibles, Hawaii Bible, Icelandic Bibles, Italian Bible, Japanese Bible, So Celtic, Oriental Bible, Kekchi Bible, Korean Bible, Latin Bible, Luganda Bible, Maori Bible, Macedonian Bible, Mam Central and Mam Toto Santos, Low German Bible, Nepali Bible, Dutch Bible, Norwegian Bible, Chichewa Bible, Oriya Bible, West Central Oromo Bible, Punjabi Bible, Polish Bible, Papia Bible, Portuguese Bible, Kichue Bible, Kichi, Occidental Bible, Romanian Bible, Russian Bible, Slavic Bible, Somali, Albanian, Serbian, Swedish, Swahili Bible, Tamil, Thai, Tagalog Bible, Twi Bible, Ukrainian Bible, Urdu, Esperanto Bible, Vietnamese Bible, Yoruba Bible, Chinese Bibles. So there are many Bibles in circulation around the world in various languages. And you know, when you deal with the Holy Bible, of course, Judaism, Catholic Church, and all the Protestant church, and then you got all this denominational, non-denominational, you know, all that kind of stuff. You know, and then when you deal with the Bible, hey, you know, Islam is not left out. Now let's go over here to the Tetragrammaton. Now we over here on Wikipedia. The Tetragrammaton is the four-letter Hebrew theonym transliterated as capital Y, capital H, capital W, capital H, or capital Y, capital H, capital V, capital H. The name of God in the Hebrew Bible. The four letters written and read from right to left in Hebrew are Y-O-D-H, H-E, W-A-W, and H-E. The name may be derived from a verb that means to be, to exist, to cause, to become, or to come to pass. While there is no consensus about the structure and etymology of the name, the form Yahweh is now accepted most universally among biblical and Semitic linguistic scholars, though the vocalization Jehovah continues to have wide usage. Now let's scroll down. You know we're on Wikipedia, so let's scroll down. All right. All right, we have see also. We have references, notes. We have citations. And we have external links. Okay. All right, so let's scroll back up. It's very important when you're on Wikipedia or whatever. When you read footnotes, citations, and sources, and, you know, things in nature. It's important. Very important. Footnotes are important. Citations are important. That's very important. Very important. Your sources, you know, it's important. You don't never leave it out. It's very important. All right. The books of the Torah and the rest of the Hebrew Bible, except Esther, Ecclesiastes, and with the possible instance of, in verse 8:6, the Song of Songs contains this Hebrew name. Observant Jews and those who follow Talmudic Jewish tradition do not pronounce, nor do they read aloud proposed transcription forms such as Yahweh or Jehovah. When we were talking about the names of God in the Old Testament, we were talking about the names of God in the New Testament or God in the Bible. When you hear Jehovah, it's considered to be sacred. They don't even read it aloud. They don't pronounce it. They don't pronounce it. Nor do they read aloud. Proposed transcription form such as Yahweh or Jehovah. It's sacred. Yahweh or Jehovah. The vocalization, Jehovah. Continue to have wide uses. But they're considered to be sacred. You know. You don't even read it aloud or you don't even pronounce it. Instead, they replace it with a different term, whether addressing or referring to the God of Israel. Common substitution in Hebrew are Adonai, literal translation, my lords, pluralis, majestatis, taken as singular, or Elohim, literally, gods, but treated as singular when meaning God in prayer, or Hashem, the name in everyday speech. 4 letters. The letter probably written and read from right to left in biblical Hebrew are Yod, He, Wah, He. Etymology. The Hebrew Bible explains it by the formula. Transliterated He. Translated I am that I am. The name of God revealed to Moses in Exodus 3:14. This would frame capital Y, capital H, capital W, capital H as a derivation from the Hebrew transcontinental root HYH to be, become, come to pass with a third person masculine Y prefix equivalent to English he in place of the first person, thereby affording translations as he who causes to exist, he who is, etc. Although this would elicit the form capital Y, capital H, capital Y, capital H, not capital Y, capital H, capital W, capital H. To rectify this, some scholars propose that the Tetragrammaton represents a substitution of the medial Y for W, and occasionally attest to practice in biblical Hebrew as both letters function as matrix lexemes. Others propose that the Tetragrammaton derived instead from the tricontinental root HWH to be, constitute with the final form eliciting similar translation as those derived from HYH. As such, the consensus among modern scholars considers that capital Y, capital H, capital W, capital H represents a verbal form with the Y representing the third masculine verbal prefix of the verb HYH to be, as indicated in the Hebrew Bible. Vocalization. Like all letters in the Hebrew script, the letters N, capital Y, capital H, capital W, capital H are originally indicated consonants. In unpointed biblical Hebrew, most vowels are not written, but some are indicated ambiguously, as certain letters came to have a secondary function indicating vowels similar to the Latin use of I and V to indicate either the consonants J, W, or the vowels IU. Hebrew letters used to indicate vowels are known as or matrix lexemes, mothers of reading. Therefore, it can be difficult to deduce how a word is pronounced from its spelling, and each of the 4 letters in the Tetragrammaton can individually serve as a mater lexemes. Several centuries later, between the 5th through 10th century CE, the original consonantal text of the Hebrew Bible was provided with vowels marked by the Masoretes to assist reading. In places where the word to be read, the kiri differed from that indicated by the consonant of the written text, the keter. They wrote the kiri in the margin as a note showing what was to be read. In such a case, the vowel marks of the kiri were written on the kita. For a few frequent words, the marginal note was omitted. These are called kiri perpetuum. One of the frequent cases was the tetragrammaton, which according to later rabbinic Jewish practice should not be pronounced, but read as Adonai. Literal translation, my lords, pluralis, majestatis, taken as singular. Or if the previous or next word already was Adonai, as Elohim, God, writing the vowel diacritics of these two words on the consonants, capital Y, capital H, capital V, capital H, produces, and respectively, ghost words that would spell Jehovah and Yehovah, respectively. The oldest complete or nearly complete manuscript of the Masoretic text with Tiberian vocalizations such as the Aleppo Codex and the Leningrad Codex, both of the 10th or 11th century, mostly write Yahweh with no point on the first H. It could be because the O diacritic point plays no useful role in distinguishing between Adonai and Elohim, and so is redundant. Or it could point to the kiri being, which is Aramaic for the name, Yahweh. The scholarly consensus is that the original pronunciation of the tetragrammaton was Yahweh. Arino agrees that when in the late first millennium, Jewish scholars inserted indications of vowels into the Hebrew vowel, they signaled that what was pronounced was Adonai, Lord. Non-Jews later combined the vowels of Adonai with the consonants of the tetragrammaton and invented the name Jehovah. Paul June and Takamitsu Moriaka state the kiri is the Lord, whilst the kita is probably, according to ancient witnesses, and they add note 1, in our translation we have used Yahweh, a form widely accepted by scholars instead of the traditional Jehovah. In 1869, Smith's Bible Dictionary, the collaborative work of noted scholars of the time, declared, whatever therefore be the true pronunciation of the word, there can be little doubt that it is not Jehovah. Mark P. Arnold remarked that certain conclusions drawn from the pronunciation of as Yahweh would be valid even if the scholarly consensus were not correct. Thomas Rumer holds that the original pronunciation of Yahweh was Yahoo or Yehu. Max Riesel, in the mysterious name of capital Y, capital H, capital W, capital A, says that the vocalization of the tetragrammaton must originally have been Yahuwah or Yahuwah. The element Yahweh is found in Amorite personal names, commonly denoted as the semantic equivalent of the acadian. The latter refers to one existence which in the context of deities can also refer to one's eternal existence, which align with Bible verses such as Exodus 3:15, and views that can mean I am the existing one. It also explains the ease of Israelites applying the olam or everlasting epithet from El to Yahweh. But J. Philip Hyde believes it is more likely that Yahweh refers to a God creating and sustaining the life of a newborn child rather than the universe. This conception of God was more popular among ancient Near Easterners, but eventually the Israelites removed the association of Yahweh to any human ancestor and combined it with other elements. Yahweh. Halil bin Sasson states that there is insufficient evidence for Amorites using Yahweh to refer to a god, but he argues that it mirrors other theophoric names and that Yahweh, or more accurately, Yahweh, derived from the root HWY in Pa'el, which means he will be. the adoption at the time of the Protestant Reformation of Jehovah in place of the traditional Lord in some new translation, vernacular or Latin of the biblical tetragrammaton, stirred up dispute about its correctness. See, I told you, man, you have to pay attention to what's going on. See, it's important that I do my reading for myself. I told that Martin Luther stuff. I told you. In 1711, Adrian Reeland published a book containing the text of the 17th century writings, 5 attacking and 5 defending it, as critical of the use of Jehovah. It incorporated writings by Johannes van den Dries, 1550-1616, known as Drusius, Sixtinus Amama, 1593-1629, Louis Capel, 1585-1658, and Johannes Buxtorf, 1564-1629, Jacob Alting, 1618-1679, defending Jehovah, were writings by Nicholas Fuller, 1557-1626, and Thomas Gadaker, 1574-1654, and 3 essays by Johann Leusden, 1624-1699. The opponents of Jehovah said that the Tetragrammaton should be pronounced as Adonai, and in general do not speculate on what may have been the original pronunciation, although mention is made of the fact that some held that Javi was their pronunciation. Almost 2 centuries after the 17th century works reprinted by Reeland, 19th century Wilhelm Gesenius reported in his Thesaurus Philologus on the main reasoning of those who argue either for or Yahweh as the original pronunciation of the Tetragrammaton, as opposed to Jehovah. He explicitly cited the 17th century writers mentioned by Reeland as supporters of, as well as implicitly citing Johann David Michaelis, 1717-1791, and Johann Friedrich von Meyer, 1772-1849. The latter of whom Johann Heinrich Kurtz described as last of those who have maintained with great pertinacity that was the correct and original point. Edward Robertson's translation of a work by Gesenius gives Gesenius' personal view as my own view coincides with that of those who regard this name as anciently pronounced Yahweh, like the Samaritans. And there's some more information, but I'm not going to go into all that. But that, like I said, hey, that Protestant Reformation, that Martin Luther stuff, that's really why it's important. And then the good thing about it is on Wikipedia. You got footnotes, you got citations, you got sources. It's in the library. And the library is worldwide. You got libraries all over the world. And then, as it said, observant Jews and those who follow Talmudic Jewish tradition do not pronounce, nor do they read aloud proposed transcription forms such as Yahweh or Jehovah. Instead, they replace it with a different term, whether in addressing or referring to the God of Israel. That's the reason why that Dead Sea Scroll discovery is important. And see, at the time with Martin Luther, they hadn't discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls. So when you talking about this Protestant Reformation, you talking about those who for and those who against. They hadn't discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls as of yet. That's the reason why it's important to do my reading. Because when you talking about somebody for and against, and they hadn't even discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls, talking about the name of God, and you talking about observant Jews, the Tetragrammaton, they hadn't discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls yet. So what Martin Luther got to be running his mouth up, and the rest of these daggone Protestants. See, that's the reason why it's important. The Dead Sea Scrolls. You had people sitting around trying to make themselves out to be intelligent. I mean, you know your stuff, but from a scholastic point of view, on that level. But when it comes to the Dead Sea Scroll, when it comes to the Word of God, yeah, you might be, you can be a scholarly person on a kiri and a ketiv, on a prefix and a suffix. Yeah, you can be an educated, scholarly person on that level. Yeah. Yeah, you know all them names they gave, those who were for and again. Yeah, okay. Talking about a period and a question mark. The triconsonantal root. Okay, you an intelligent person. I'm not gonna take nothing from you. Yeah, on that, you on your stuff, man. You smart. But hey, talking about the Word of God, talking about the Word of God, and you can't even get the pronunciation, the vocalization right. They hadn't even discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls yet. And when we talk about the Dead Sea Scroll, and when they had been transcribed at that time, you make it sound like they didn't know what they was talking about. But they did. Because the Dead Sea Scroll had not been discovered. And when they did discover it, they put the history on how old it was. They dated it. It's way back. Now, I just wanted to refer over here to the Dead Sea Scroll. We on Wikipedia. Let me read something right quick. All right, the Dead Sea Scroll, also called the Qumran Cave Scroll, are a set of ancient Jewish manuscripts from the Second Temple period. They were discovered over a period of 10 years between 1946 and 1956 at the Qumran Cave near in Feshka, in the West Bank, on the northern shore of the Dead Sea, dating from the 3rd century BCE to the 1st century CE. That's how old the Dead Sea Scrolls is. The Dead Sea Scrolls include the oldest surviving manuscript of the entire books later included in the biblical canon, along with extra biblical and deuterocanonical manuscripts from late Second Temple Judaism. Now, when it comes to the physical characteristics, radiocarbon dating, it says that since then, scroll down. Okay, since then, two large series of tests have been performed on the scroll. Strong reason for thinking that most of the Qumran manuscript belong to the last 2 centuries BCE and the 1st century CE. Then they did another test, paleographic dating. They say some fragments were dated between 225 BCE to 50 CE. The same fragments were later analyzed using radiocarbon dating and were dated to an estimated range of 385 BCE to 82 CE with a 68% accuracy rate. And so when it comes to the biblical significance, before the discovery of the Dead Sea Scroll, the oldest Hebrew language manuscript of the Bible were Masoretic texts dating to the 10th century Common Era, such as the Aleppo Codex. Today, the oldest known extant manuscript of the Masoretic text date from approximately the 9th century. The biblical manuscripts found among the Dead Sea Scroll puts that date back more than a millennium to the 2nd century BCE. This was a significant discovery for Old Testament scholars who anticipated that the Dead Sea Scroll would either affirm or repudiate the reliability of textual transmission from the original text to the oldest Masoretic text at hand. The discovery demonstrated the unusual accuracy of transmission over a 1,000-year period, rendering it reasonable to believe that current Old Testament texts are reliable copies of the original works. And then they got all the books that were found: Psalm, Deuteronomy, 1st Enoch, Genesis, Isaiah, Jubilees, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Minor Prophets, Daniel, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Job, Tobit, Kings, Samuel, Judges, Song of Songs, Ruth, Lamentations, Sirach, Ecclesiastes, Joshua. And of course, we over on Wikipedia. It's going to be footnotes, references. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be footnotes. It's going to be citations. It's going to be sources. It's going to be references. We can go to the library right now. Bibliography. Further reading, external links. We can go to the library right now. See, that's the reason why the tetragrammaton. See, that's the reason why I be reading. See, that's the reason why it's important. See, because the Jews, it's so sacred that they won't even pronounce it. They won't even read it aloud, let alone pronounce it. They had to have a substitute. When you say Yahweh as well as Jehovah. Observant Jews. Yeah. What I was looking for last week, it was sitting right there in front of me. Anti-gang, anti-Gnostic, anti-Hazy. Also, Saint Irenaeus, the Bishop of Lyons, together with Saint Ignatius, the Bishop of Antioch, wrote a 5-volume book refuting Gnosticism, proving that Gnosticism was a heresy. And the title of that book versus heresies, against heresies. Also, Saint Athanasius, the Bishop of Alexandria, in the year 367 AD, in his 39th festival letter, Easter letter, banned all non-Christian writing. Saint Athanasius, the Bishop of Alexandria, together with all the other bishops in the Catholic Church, they went around and collected all that Gnostic theologian writing, and they destroyed it. And then we know that some of that Gnostic theologian writing didn't get destroyed. For example, the Askew Codex, the Berlin Codex, the Bruce Codex, and then later on, the Nagamon Library. The little farm boys outside playing, and he found the Nagamon Library, and he gave what he found to his father, who was a farmer. And some scholars, they found out about it. They was inquiring about it. For example, Mr. Derisi, a Frenchman, he inquired about it, but he didn't get possession of the Nagamon Library. Then later on, some more scholars were inquiring about it, like Mr. John. I think he got one copy, but in the process trying to get out the Nagamon Library, he ended up dying. The Egyptian government was having a lot of turmoil at the time. And the Egyptian Department of Antiquities, they would eventually get possession of the Nagamon Library and put it in the Department of Antiquities Museum in Cairo. And later on, UNESCO, they commissioned Mr. James Robinson and to get together some scholars so they can translate the Nagamon Library. And eventually, the Nagamon Library was translated. Mr. Robinson got a translation, then others people they translated, and it took some years for the college and university to eventually get some type of facsimile for to teach about this Gnosticism. And then these so-called Gnostic people, they stupid, because there really ain't no such thing as no Gnosticism. And that's what the Catholic Church has been refuting and continue to refute today, that Gnosticism is a heresy, as well as the Jews. For example, Rabbi Akiva, first century, late second century, early first century, Rabbi said that he did not want Gnosticism to be an influence on Judaism, as well as that Grecian philosophy, as well and that intellectual stuff. And so Gnosticism is nothing but a heresy. They don't do them a lie, and then try to be violent, a self-destructive and destructive. They try and destroy nature, wildlife, and the environment. For example, the North and South Pole. And now they're going out in space, talking about the material world is evil, which is a big lie. Going around having anal sex. And doing stupid stuff like that. Don't let these so-called Gnostics make you look like a big dummy through violence and harassment and bullying. See, that's the reason why that Dead Sea Scroll discovery is so important. It's so important. The Almighty, Conservative, Vice Lord, Four Corner Hustle. The Almighty, Black, Prince Stone. The Almighty, Mickey, Coverstone, Cracker. The Almighty, Black, Disciple, Poppy. The Almighty Blue, Finn Black Disciple. Lord, Stone, Disciple. Gangster Disciple Killer, GDK. Glazed Donut Killer, GDK. 7-Eleven, G Killer. Goofy. See, it's important the things I do. When you expose narcissism, which them punks tried to use, them peons like Larry Hoover and the rest of them so-called supreme gangsters, number some peons coming. You know they from Mississippi. You know they from Mississippi. And then you got all these other people from Arkansas, from Tennessee, from Alabama, from Louisiana, from Texas. Then you had people who were already living in Missouri, some people from Tennessee, from Arkansas, from Louisiana, from Alabama, moved to Missouri. From Texas, moved to Missouri and Kansas. Not just to Chicago and to Illinois, as well as to the northern states, like Indianapolis, Minnesota, Iowa, and Wisconsin. You know, the states that surround Illinois, as well as Michigan. And let's not, out there in California, the same damn people from Mississippi, Tennessee, from Louisiana, from Alabama, from Texas, moved to Los Angeles. Oklahoma, they moved to Los Angeles, California, as well as other cities in the state of California. That's where they from. They from down here. Talking about the Avenue Gang. And then talking about Ronald Washington started the Baby Cribs. Him and Tookie Williams. Hell, they from Louisiana. There's a whole lot of people from Tennessee, from Mississippi, from Alabama, from Arkansas, from Texas. Hell, Kentucky, from Kentucky. Oklahoma. Living in California. Because remember, they used to go around on the Gospel Highway. Used to go around on the Gospel Highway. See, when you try to lie, and you know back in the, now you know the name of our library was discovered in 1945, 1946. Now they didn't have possession of it. Now prior to that, when you talk about heresiology, see, the white people had education. They denied us education. We as African Americans. Just like we were talking about St. Irenaeus, the Bishop of Lyon, and together with St. Ignatius, the Bishop of Antioch, wrote a 5-volume book, Adversus Erases, against heresy. We'll see Hippolytus of Rome Hippolytus of Rome was a bishop of Rome and one of the most important 2nd, 3rd century Christian theologians whose provenance, identity, and corpus remain elusive to scholars and historians. Suggested communities include Rome, Palestine, Egypt, Anatolia, and other regions of the Middle East. The best historians of literature in the ancient church, including Eusebius of Caesarea and Jerome, openly confess they cannot name where Hippolytus, the biblical commentator and theologian, served in leadership. They had read his works, but did not possess evidence of his community. Photius the First of Constantinople described him in his Bibliotheca as a disciple of Irenaeus, who was said to be a disciple of Polycarp. And from the context of this passage, it is supposed that he suggests that Hippolytus so styled himself. This assertion is doubtful. One older theory asserts he came into conflict with the popes of his time and seems to have headed a schismatic group as a rival to the Bishop of Rome, thus becoming an anti-pope. In this view, he opposed the Roman popes, who softened the penitential system to accommodate the large number of new pagan converts. However, he was reconciled to the church before he died as a martyr. Starting in the 4th century, various legends arose about him, identifying him as a priest of the Novatian schism or as a soldier converted by St. Lawrence. He has also been confused with another martyr of the same name. Pope Pius IV identifies him as St. Hippolytus, Bishop of Pontus, who was martyred in the reign of Severus Alexander, through his inscription on a statue found at the Church of St. Lawrence in Rome and kept at the Vatican as photographed and published in Bunsen. All right. Now his writings, Refutation of All Heresies. The Refutation of All Heresies is a compendious Christian polemical work of the early 3rd century whose attribution to Hippolytus of Rome or an unknown pseudo-Hippolytus is disputed. It catalogs both pagan beliefs and 33 Gnostic Christian systems deemed heretical. by Hippolytus, making it a major source of information on contemporary opponents of Christian orthodoxy as understood today. The first book, a synopsis of Greek philosophy, circulated separately in several manuscripts and was known as the Philosophomenum, a title which some extend to the whole work. Books 4 through 10 were recovered in 1842 in a manuscript at Mount Athos, while books 2 and 3 remain lost. The work was long attributed to the early Christian theologian Origen. And so, now the contents, this work is divided into 10 books, 8 of which have survived more or less intact. Books 2 and 3, however, have not been unearthed, and their contents remain the subject of conjecture. Book 1 offers a summary of the thought of various ancient Greek philosophers. Catherine Osborne identified Book 1 as being an important source of information on pre-Socratic philosophy. The most extensive treatment is given to the works of Pythagoras, Plato, and Aristotle, an outline of the philosophers of the Brahmins of India, the Zomolaics of Thrace, and the Celtic Druids, and also of the mythological poetry of Hesiod is given here. And so on and on, go on. And so, like I said, we over on Wikipedia. There'll be footnotes, citations, sources, and references. You understand? We can go to the library. That's what's important, because all this information is in the library. But again, that's refutation of all heresies, and supposedly it's by Hippolytus of Rome. And when it comes to heresiology, then you're talking about that includes the Jews as well, because to a Jew, what is a heresy? Gnostic, because in the pronunciation of heresy in Hebrew, hamim, when you say a heretic, that is a heretic, Gnostic. That's what a heresy is. That's what a heretic is. Gnostic. In Jewish, in the etymology of heretic or heresy, in Hebrew, that's what the definition means. That's what it means. Gnostic. It's a heresy. And again, it was right here in front of me. It was right here in front of me. So like I said, hey, When you talk about that gangster disciple and that black gangster new breed, see, this the reason why them peons, them stupid fools up there, and then after in California talking about some blood gang, crip gang, see, this the reason why I do what I do, because they from down here. They from Tennessee, they from Mississippi, they from Arkansas, they from Louisiana, they from Texas, and Kentucky and Missouri, yeah, okay. Then where they from? This is where they from, right down here. And talking about some narcissism, what you thought you was getting away with. No, you ain't get away with it. You ain't get away with nothing. Cause see, you got time. Whatever you thought you was getting away with, time. See, you got time. As well as so-called Lord Stone disciple. See, time. See, whatever you thought you was getting away with, time. Time. It's gonna be justice. It's gonna be justice. Cause see, Lord Stone disciple, when you thought you could get away with lying, you can't stand on no lie. You ain't gonna stand up. Now you can try to be violent and try to have anal sex. Okay. You ain't gonna make it. You ain't gonna survive. You ain't gonna survive. You and your family, y'all ain't gonna survive. You ain't gonna survive. See, that's the reason why the Dead Sea Scrolls so important. The Dead Sea Scroll discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls. So you try to talk about some narcissism. See, when they talk about narcissism being in the first century, see the Dead Sea Scroll, it's before that. It's before that. Well, looked like it was moving a little slower. Hey, but Lord, stone disciple, you can't stand on the lie. See, then again, and also when you talk about the folks and the my people, see, this is the reason why you can't stand on the lie. You can't stand on the lie. You cannot stand on the lie. That's all there is to it, straight to it. See, that Gnostic nonsense. See, again, when you talk about the Dead Sea Scroll, and you try to bring up some Gnostic, see, that's the significance, that's the biblical significance of the discovery of the Dead Sea Scroll. They've already carbon dated it, already radiocarbon dating and all the other dating and all the other things to authenticate the Dead Sea Scroll. See, this before the first century. This is what all the dating is about. How old is it? How old is the Dead Sea Scroll? And all the materials, all the ink, and the information itself is very old. Because it was information that had been passed down. So when they wrote, when the Dead Sea Scroll was transcribed, the period of time they talking about like Second Temple, you talking about BCE. But the information itself is older than that. Because the information had been passed down. So when it comes to the people and the folks and the people, my people, hey, you can make up all these different groups or whatever. I mean, that's what a lot of, but trying to talk about some Gnosticism, you ain't gonna never be able to stand on that. Ain't talking about no anal sex. Man, you ain't finna stand on no anal sex. I'm telling you right now. They go for everybody. You ain't finna never stand on no anal sex. I don't even. But like I said, sometimes the website, sometimes it moves slow, and it just moves slow. Sometimes it loads slow and took up time. But hey, see, that's a good thing about doing my video is that the information I talk about is the information that's sitting right there in front. So all I gotta do is just convey where you're coming from. Well, Wikipedia and Encyclopedia Britannica, the World Wide Web, the names of God coming from on Google, and coming from sources on the web. So, I mean, then you want to go to the library, hey, we can go to the library. Now, I've been reading from Jewish principles of faith. And so, for example, Jewish principles of faith. Judaism affirms the existence and uniqueness of God and stresses performance of deeds or commandments alone side adherence to a strict belief system. In contrast, religions such as Christianity, which demand a more explicit identification of God, faith in Judaism requires one to honor God through adherence to God's instructions, Torah, and the practice of all of the mitzvah. Now, Orthodox Judaism stresses a number of core principles in its education program. Most important, believe that there is one single, omniscient, transcendent, non-compound God who created the universe and continues to be concerned with its governance. Traditional Judaism maintains that God established a covenant with the Jewish people at Mount Sinai and revealed his laws and 613 commandments to them in the form of the written and oral Torah. In Rabbinic Judaism, the Torah consists of both the written Torah, Pentateuch, and the tradition of oral law, much of it later codified in sacred writings. See Mishnah and Talmud. Now, the proper counterpart for the general English term faith, as occurring in the expression principles of faith, would be the concept of emunah. In Judaism, the word amen comes from this word and means I trust, believe, while it's generally translated as faith or trust in God. The concept of emunah can more accurately be described as an innate conviction, a perception of truth that transcends reason. Emunah can be enhanced through wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and learning of sacred Jewish writing. But emunah is not simply based on reason, nor can it be understood as the opposite of or stand in contrast to reason. Monotheism. Judaism is based on a strict monotheism and a belief in one single, indivisible, non-compound God. The Shema Yisrael, one of the most important Jewish prayers, encapsulates the monotheistic nature of Judaism. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God. The Lord is one. Judaism emphatically rejects any concept of plurality with respect to God, explicitly rejecting polytheism, dualism, and Trinitarianism, which are incompatible with monotheism as Judaism understands it. The unity of God is stated many times in Jewish tradition. It is the second of Maimonides' 13 principles of faith. Maimonides wrote that this God is one, not two or more than two, but one whose unity is different from all other unity that there are. He is not one as a genus, which contains many species, is one, nor is he one as a body containing parts and dimensions is one. But his is a unity that which there is no other anywhere. Yad Yisodi Ha Torah 1:7. In Jewish tradition, dualistic and Trinitarian conceptions of God are generally referred to as Shetuf, partnership, meaning an incorrect but not an idolatrous view. God is the creator of the universe. Most Jews believe that God is creator of the universe. Different sets of Jews view this in different ways. For example, some ultra-Orthodox groups reject the concept of evolution and believe the earth to be only a few thousand years old. Other groups of Orthodox and non-Orthodox Jews do not believe in a literal interpretation of the Genesis creation narrative. And according to that view, Judaism is not in contradiction to the scientific model that states that the age of the universe is around 13.77 billion years old. Norbert M. Samuelson writes, the question of dating the universe has never been a problem of Jewish philosophy, ultimately because their philosophy has never taken the literal meaning of the Bible to be revealed, to be its revealed true meaning. The nature of God. The Jews view that God is eternal, with neither beginning nor end, a principle stated in a number of biblical passages. The rabbis taught a quite literal down-to-earth view of the eternalness of God, that God is eternal, but it is not given to man to explore the full meaning of this idea. And so, one cannot therefore expect to find in the rabbinic literature anything like a detailed examination of what is meant by divine eternity. A famous Mishnah statement on attempts to pierce the veil is this: whoever reflects on four things, it were better for him that he had not come into the world. What is above, what is beneath, what is before, and what is after. The traditional Jewish view that God is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnibenevolent. Soul devotion to the Creator. Within Judaism, the essence of worship is deeply rooted in the belief of monotheism, emphasizing the exclusive devotion to the Creator. This principle dictates that worship and reverence should be directed solely towards God, is articulated by Maimonides' fifth principle of faith. According to this belief, no entity aside from the Creator is deemed worthy of worship. Revelation. The Hebrew Bible, or Tanakh, is a Jewish scriptural canon and central source of Jewish law. The word is an acronym formed from the initial Hebrew letters of the three traditional subdivisions of Tanakh. The Torah, teaching, also known as the five books of Moses or Pentateuch, the Nevi'im, prophets, and the Ketuvim, writings. The Tanakh contains 24 books in all. Its authoritative version is the Masoretic text. Traditionally, the text of the Tanakh was said to have been finalized at the Council of Jamnia in 70 CE. Although this is uncertain, in Judaism the term Torah refers not only to the five books of Moses, but also to all of the Jewish scriptures, the whole of Tanakh, and the ethical and moral instruction of the rabbis. In addition to the Tanakh, there are two further textual traditions in Judaism. Mishnah tractates expound on Jewish law, and the Talmud commentary of Mishnah and Torah. These are both codifications and redactions of the Jewish oral tradition and major works in rabbinic Judaism. The Talmud consists of the Babylonian Talmud, produced in Babylon around 600 CE, and the Jerusalem Talmud, produced in the land of Israel circa 400 CE. The Babylonian Talmud is the more extensive of the two and is considered the more important. The Talmud is a representation of the Torah through sustained analysis and argument with unfolding dialogue and contention between rabbinic sages. The Talmud consists of the Mishnah, a legal code, and a Gemara, Aramaic for learning, and analysis and commentary to that code. Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz writes that if the Bible is the cornerstone of Judaism, then the Talmud is the central pillar. No other work has had a comparable influence on the theory and practice of Jewish life, shaping influence on the theory and practice of Jewish life in states. The Talmud is the repository of 1,000 years of Jewish wisdom and the oral law, which is as ancient and significant as the written law. The Torah finds expression therein. It is a conglomerate of law, legend, and philosophy, a blend of unique logic and shrewd pragmatism, of history and science, anecdotes and humor. Although its main objective is to interpret and comment on a book of law, it is simultaneously a work of art that goes beyond legislation and its practical application. Although the Talmud is, to this day, the primary source of Jewish law, it cannot be cited as an authority for purpose of ruling. Though based on the principle of tradition and the transmission of authority from generation to generation, it is unparalleled in its eagerness to question and re-examine conventions and accepted views and to root out underlying causes. The Talmudic method of discussion and demonstration tries to approximate mathematical precision, but without having recourse to mathematical or logical symbols. The Talmud is the embodiment of the great concept of mitzvah, Talmud Torah, the positive religious duty of studying Torah, of acquiring learning and wisdom study, which is its own end and reward. Moses and the Torah. Orthodox and conservative Jews hold that the prophecy of Moses is held to be true. He is held to be chief of all prophets, even those who came before and after him. For Reformed Jews, the prophecy of Moses was not the highest degree of prophecy. Rather, it was first in a long chain of progressive revelations in which mankind gradually began to understand the will of God better and better. Reconstructionist Jews, this was also rejected by most Reconstructionist Jews, but for a different reason. Most posit that God is not a being with a will. Thus, they maintain that no will can be revealed. The origin of the Torah. The Torah is composed of 5 books called in English Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. They chronicle the history of the Hebrews and also contain the commandments that Jews are to follow. Prophecy. Jews believe that the Almighty Creator at times chooses to prophesy. Many of such occurrences are described in the Nevi'im, the books of the prophet. However, since the destruction of the first temple, prophecy has ceased. The oral Torah. Orthodox Jews view the written and oral Torah as the same as Moses taught for all practical purposes. Conservative Jews tend to believe that much of the oral law is divine inspired, while Reform and Reconstructionist Jews tend to view all of the oral law as an entire human creation. Traditionally, the Reform movement held that Jews were obliged to obey the ethical but not the ritual commandments of Scripture. Although today many Reformed Jews have adopted many traditional ritual practices, Karate Jews traditionally consider the written Torah to be authoritative, viewing the oral law as only one possible interpretation of the written Torah. Most modern Orthodox Jews will agree that while certain laws within the oral law were given to Moses, most of the Talmudic law were derived organically by the rabbis of the Mishnaic and Talmudic eras. God's relationship with men. Judaism focuses more on how God defines men than one trying to define God. They are therefore focused on what people are expected to be or do far more than on spelling out theological beliefs. People are born with both a tendency to do good and do evil. Jewish tradition mostly emphasize free will, and most Jewish thinkers reject determinism on the basis that free will and the exercise of free choice have been considered a precondition of moral life. All is necessary for God because he is perfect, but for mankind all is possible by virtue of choice. The two types of view are true, with knowing about the prophet who is in difficulty with God to be wise and to perform miracles for him. Judaism affirms that people are born with both a Yisr Hatov, an inclination or impulse to do good, and with a Yisr Hara, an inclination or impulse to do evil. Judaism recognizes 2 classes of sin: offense against other people and offense against God. Offense against God may be understood as violation of a contract, the covenant between God and the children of Israel. Once a person has sinned, there are various means by which they may obtain atonement. See atonement in Judaism. Judaism rejects the belief in original sin. Both ancient and modern Judaism teaches that every person is responsible for his own actions. The existence of some innate sinfulness on each human being was discussed in both biblical and post-biblical sources. However, in the biblical verses, this is brought as an argument for divine mercy, as humans cannot be blamed for the nature they were created with. Reward and punishment. The mainstream Jewish view that God will reward those who observe his commandments and punish those who intend to transgress them. Israel chosen for a purpose. God chose the Jewish people to be in a unique covenant with God. The description of this covenant is the Torah itself. God further declared in the Torah, though, through prophecy to Moses, that his firstborn is the Israelite. However, closeness and being chosen does not imply exclusivity, as anyone can join and convert. Including the idea of being chosen is that Jews were chosen for a specific mission, a duty to be a light unto the nation and to have a covenant with God inscribed in Torah. The Messiah. Judaism acknowledges an afterlife, but does not have a single or systemic way of thinking about the afterlife. Judaism places overwhelming stress on Olam Hazeh, this world, rather than Olam Haba, the world to come. And speculations about the world to come are peripheral to mainstream Judaism. Jews reject the idea that Jesus of Nazareth was the Messiah and agree that the Messiah is not yet come. Throughout Jewish history, there have been a number of Jewish Messiah claimants considered false by Jews, including most notably Simon Bar Kokhba and Sabbatai Zevi, whose father were known as Sabbatean. Liberal or Reformed Judaism does not believe in the arrival of a personal Messiah who will gather the exile in the land of Israel and cause physical resurrection of the dead. Rather, Reformed Jews focus on a future age in which there is a perfected world of justice and mercy. Jewish mysticism. Christian mysticism. Dualism in cosmology. And this is Wikipedia. Now this is dualism in cosmology on Britannica. Now this is mind-body dualism. Now this is syncretism. Now we get ready to end today's video. Again, my name is Eric D. Johnson, also known by BrightShine, right here in the city of Memphis, in the county, state of Tennessee. And thank all my family, my support for Team Curve support. And thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for the Son of God, for all the blessings and the guidance provides all of us with. And continue to pray for the wars that are being fought. And continue to pray that there'll be peace. And I'll come back on my next video and we're gonna pick right back up where we left off, and I'm gonna continue my reading. Like I said, hey, the Dead Sea Scroll. That's way before Martin Luther. The Dead Sea Scroll, even before, when the church fathers said they identified who the Gnostics were. It was in the first century. This is in the first century, early first century. The church fathers in the Catholic Church, they identified who the Gnostics were. They was Jews. They were Jews. Supposedly they were Jews. You know. And so it was in the first century. So when they talk about the discovery of the Dead Sea Scroll, the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered in 1945 for over a 10-year period of time. And when it comes to trying to determine how old the Dead Sea Scroll, how old the Dead Sea Scrolls are, they use all the at this time, even today, they use all the modern dating procedures. And the Dead Sea Scroll have been determined to be during the age of the Second Temple and all that. We're talking about BCE. BCE. That's how old. And the information itself, the information had been passed down. So it goes, it's further than that. The information itself is older. But when it was based on the Dead Sea Scroll, the information that had been documented, that information is old information. But at that time, when they had scribed it, during that period of time, what period of time was the Dead Sea Scroll transcribed? Well, around Second Temple time, BCE. So you can talk all that nonsense. It ain't nothing but a bunch of heresy, some anal sex. That's all it is. Anal sex. It's a big lie. See, that's the biblical significance of the Dead Sea Scroll. It's older. It's older. And so, like I said again, Lord Stone disciple is Lord Stone disciple. You can't stand on a lie. So, person come up there, Lord, they're Stone, they're disciple. Well, okay. It's going to be justice. And we got time. We got time. It will be justice. We got time. See, that's a good thing about folks and my people is that when I do my reading, see, when you talk about the Dead Sea Scroll, see, when people try to run their mouth about all this so-called religion stuff, see, the Dead Sea Scroll is older. And then when you talk about older, and when you try to pinpoint the time when it was transcribed, you got to remember this. You got to also say this, that the information itself is older. Because just like we just got to talking about the oral tradition, and not just the written Torah, but the oral Torah. Information that has been passed down orally. And then you talking about information that has been passed down by writing. But the oral tradition is older. Because this information has been passed down, passed down one generation to the next generation, not just being written down, but it's what people say out their mouth. And then people hear what you say. And then they pass that information down one generation to the next. So that information is old information. And when they transcribe the Dead Sea Scroll, that information wasn't from that time period. That information was older. So the Dead Sea Scroll and the information is very old. So talking about some Gnostic, man, you ain't gonna never get away with that. And just like we just got you talking about this dualism and cosmology, Judaism, the principles of faith, monotheism. See, that's another thing good about all this. When we talk about the history of Judaism, you start talking about bringing up polytheism. Then you start coming into the thing where the Jews start being monotheistic. See, this is some serious stuff, man. This some serious stuff. But I'm going to go ahead and end today's video. I'm going to come back on my next video, man. We're going to pick right back up. And it's going to be justice. Lord Stone disciple is Lord Stone disciple. See, all that lying that the gangster disciple be doing in that black gangster new breed. When I make my video, man, you can go on. You ain't know a bunch of lying peons. They talking about they had the nerve to talk about some growth and development and some better guidance. Okay, all right. Now you one of them gullible, naive, stupid people. You're gonna get put in the same category with them, and you're gonna get the same severe consequence and repercussion that the gangster disciple and the black gangster new breed gonna get. It's gonna be severe consequence and repercussion. You know, retaliation. And that includes background check. Hey, background check. I don't care nothing about none of it. You know what I'm saying? You ain't no such thing as trying to run and hide. Ain't no such thing as sparing nobody. Because when I think about when I was born, think about my brothers, man, other people think about their family, their loved ones, the wrong you did to them. See, this is what's going to happen to that blood gang, that Crip gang out there in Los Angeles, California. See, that's what's going to happen. Background check. They're going to identify, people going to be identified as being from Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Kentucky, Texas, Oklahoma. You're going to be identified, and you're going to be sitting around talking about nothing, because you ain't got nothing to talk about, because you just been going around lying and then try to use violence. Well, see, violence going to be exacted upon you. Got time. You ain't nobody to be afraid of. You ain't nobody to be scared of. You can go around trying to be aggressive all you want. You ain't nobody. See, all that lying. You can't stand on a lie. See, I already exposed you. You try to use narcissism. You ain't know what you was talking about. But you try to accuse other people of not knowing what they talk about. Now, people seeing that it was you that didn't know what you was talking about. And them people want justice, including me. And I ain't going to take it. It's going to be justice. And there ain't no time living on justice. Until next time, take care of yourself, which is the one you very best.